We live in a time where the flow of information is constant, with competing voices in crowded spaces, where old school thoughts meet new school ideas.
We are constantly having to recreate ourselves. To understand these identities, we need to decipher the culture. This is unconventional. This is Lounge Academics.
Yes, Paula.
Greetings.
Greetings. Lovely to see you. How are you?
I'm blessed, thank you. And you?
I'm well. I'm very well, thank you.
Yes.
And did you get your dinner on? Yeah.
I
Did
did.
you eat?
Well, if I'm honest, I kind of had 2 bites quickly, and then
Oh
I'm
no.
gonna have to go back after.
Oh no. I'm sorry, Paula. I don't want to deprive you of
No
food. You know,
worries. It's
it's
good.
not the one. You get me. But it's all
all
nice to
good.
see you.
Thank
Brilliant to have you
you.
here. I was just saying, I'm super excited about this because I think for me, what you represent is just so cool in terms of financial education, breaking negative cycles of being, I think, especially generational cycles as well. So I'm super excited to have this conversation because you represent a topic that I'm very passionate about.
Okay.
And I know our community through Lounge Academics is very passionate about as well as people who are entrepreneurs, that are people interested in investment and looking at finance as well. So it's a very important topic, as we all know.
Yes.
But I'm just going to keep quiet there because what we
Okay.
normally do in terms of our 5 minutes to disrupt, it's an opportunity for us to shine a spotlight on our members of our community.
Okay.
So people who are doing outstanding stuff, however small, however big, you know, we're here to have that conversation with people and be able to kind of share that light with others, yeah, particularly in our
Yes.
community. So the way we normally do this is normally for the first kind of 5 minutes or so, we allow our guests to have the floor
Okay.
to simply let our followers know and let people know who they are, what they're about, what they do, and then we just have a flowing conversation from that. Really, I've got a lot of questions,
Okay.
but I'm sure we'll get to them.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay.
So I'll just hand over to you now to do your bit and introduce yourself, Paula. So the floor's yours.
Okay, greetings everyone. Thank you for having me. My name's Paula Perry. I run an organization called You For Us, which is dedicated to breaking negative generational cycles within the family. So I focus on areas of finance, education, and parenting. And You For Us means, I believe, when you are in your best place, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, it has an impact on the us. And the us being your children, family members, your peers, and ultimately the wider community. Because when you're shining and you're in a good place, people can gravitate to you. They see the light in you and they want to know how you are doing what you're doing. So You For Us. So when you're in your best place, we can be in our best place too. So I run financial education programs. I started in 2016 because I believe I started with finance because I believe that's the core of many of our ills within our community. Many of us are not taught about anything in regards to finances. So we end up mismanaging our money, or we are living payday to payday. And I've done things within my life which statistically I shouldn't have been able to do from my background and growing up. So I've done things in my life, and I always thought, you know, if someone told me these things when I was younger, if someone showed me these things or taught me these things or led me down the way, I could have been ahead a long time further. And I just feel like sometimes we just need someone to show us or tell us how to do something, because when you don't know it, then you can't do it. So that's why I started an event called Stepping Towards Increased Finances. I have online programs. I go into schools. I teach children. I have one-to-one coaching in regards to helping people with their finances. Because again, another one of my beliefs is I believe every generation needs a step up on a ladder. So we need to build for the next generation so they can start there, build upon, and everyone's building and building and building. And unfortunately, that's not happening in many cases. Our children are kind of a couple of steps back from us. Okay, so that's my passion. I absolutely love what I do. I love elevating people. I love just seeing people shine. I've got something called a 26-week saving challenge, and some people said they've never been able to save, have been saving, and they're doing really good at it.
Brilliant.
So that's something that I absolutely love doing as well. And the one special thing I think about what I do as well is I do it from a down to people just trust me, you know, I do it in a non-judgmental manner. I'm able to connect with people because I genuinely love seeing, I'm genuine. What you see here, if you see me on the street, it's the same person, okay? And one thing that I think is a bit different is what I teach is what I've done, what I've experienced, what I know can happen if you want it to happen. So it's not something I've read and I'm doing it. It's things that I've done and it's happened and I've achieved. Hence why I'm able to share it and feel confident in sharing it, knowing that if I can do it from where I'm coming from, you can definitely do it too. Is that enough there?
Wow, that's more than enough. I think there's enough there for us to chew on,
Yeah,
though. That's brilliant.
Just to add,
definitely.
for those who may not know, I also teach Black history. So I'm a co-author of a best-selling book called Black British History. It's the first of its kind. It's a school textbook dedicated to key stage 3 children. That's 11 to 14, about Black British history. Many adults are unaware of the information, so it's good to learn together as well. But it's written in line with the national curriculum, and it's doing very, very well in showing how Black people have been positively influencing British culture from 1948 to 2016. That's modern history. So please don't say, I know Black people were here before then, but the book is dedicated to that period.
No, definitely. And it's interesting because I think I might need to invite you back to have a conversation, because we have got in the autumn, there is another series that I'm planning to kind of talk to, which is going to be looking at exploring race and in particular, you know, the Black British experience and our involvement in that. So it'd be nice to kind of invite you back and maybe have a separate conversation within the context of that, you know, because it's so important. There's so much that you bring, Paula. That's the thing. You bring so much. Do you know what I mean? What do we stick on? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been asked already for the link for that book. So if you get a chance, if you can, pop it in the, if you can pop that in,
I'll do
that would be great at some point. So people can get the link for that when they're ready. And for those of you that are just joining us, obviously, I'm talking to Paula Perry, as we said, you know, founder of You For Us. We are talking about the theme of breaking negative cycles. And I guess the focus for this conversation, it goes really quick, Paula. We start talking and then we blink and people are like, what, 45 minutes, an hour, what, we're done already. So what I'd like us to do is to really talk about, you know, what that means in terms of your mission, you know, what that means for you and what that means for people and engaging with that as well. But also, what I'm sure that some of our listeners and people that may catch this up on catch up or may watch this later, most probably will have questions around, well, in terms of my financial circumstances, I might be in one place, i.e. there'll be people that are like you said, I don't know how to save. I'm struggling to save. I'm living from paycheck to paycheck and I ain't got no money to save, right? So there'll be people in those circumstances, right up to those that might be thinking, okay, that's not really a problem for me, but I'm thinking about what's the best way to get a residual income or to get some money in, or how can I make passive income and multiply those income streams? So hopefully this can speak to people across that spectrum. And I encourage our listeners to kind of, if there are questions as we're talking and chatting through this, please chime in, throw in your questions, put them up, and obviously Paula and I will do our best to kind of navigate that. Is that all right, Paula?
That's fine. That's fine, completely
fine. Brilliant. Just to add the caveat, obviously, this isn't all about, I want to add, this isn't financial advice. So for those people that are coming out here and they're thinking, right, I'm going to go by whatever Kevin and Paula says right now, I'm going to go and action this, and this is what they told me to do. Nada. I just want to put the caveat out there now and disclaimer that we're having a conversation. This isn't financial advice, but what I'm doing is having a dialogue with Paula about her knowledge, about her experience and wisdom, and we're not effectively telling you to go out and implement this, but it may be something that you might want to research. Or, as I know, financial education is in your remit, Paula. This might be something that you may follow up with Paula through a consultation or through something at a later stage with Paula separate to this conversation. I just wanted to add that. Is that all right, Paula?
Yep, that's great. That's great.
Brilliant. Cool. Okay. So based on what you were saying, because you said quite a lot, but I thought just to slow it down a bit, you mentioned when you started talking, you were talking about there were things that you've achieved and that things that you've been able to do that you shouldn't have been able to, given the demographic and background. I want to know if you could just elaborate on that a bit more, on what that would be.
So just give briefly. So I grew up what they would call a disadvantaged home. So I've practically been looking after myself since the age of 13. I was expelled from school. I'm a teenage mother, and I had parents at the time that were on drugs. So the routes that I should have gone down, if you see a circle of it, was a number of different things. So it might have been, you know, drug abuse myself, alcohol abuse, gangs, violence. There's a number of things in the circle that I should have gone down. The one that I did was teenage pregnancy. And I believe that it was at that point with having a child that I was looking after, looking at knowing that I'm responsible for another life, was the turning point that I realized that, well, it was before then, but I'll just say from then, it was like, this child will not experience anything that I have. So I've always been striving from an early age, even when I was like expelled from school, not because I was a bad child, but I didn't take off my baseball cap in assembly with a new teacher, headmistress. So even from then, I enrolled in myself at 15 into a college, pretended I was 16 into a YTS, and got trained as my business.
YTS? What? You don't look like you know about YTS. Sorry. Sorry. Just exposing our age.
YTS is, that's like equivalent to an apprenticeship scheme.
Equivalent. £35 a week kind of thing.
I got my MBQ level 1 and 2 in business administration when I was 15. So I've always been about self-development, personal development, all the way through. So just leading on from that, I was the person that, you know, grandma would have said, oh no, follow Paula. So those who's in the Caribbean background, you would know what that means. Like, you lot do not follow Paula. But through all of that, I still ended up being the first person in my family to attend university, first person in my family to own multiple properties, first person in my family to earn over a certain threshold, first person in my family to have a profession. So that's where I'm saying that I shouldn't have achieved those things from my upbringing.
No, brilliant. And thank you for contextualizing that. I'm seeing the hearts are coming up already because people can relate to that narrative. So it's important that we contextualize our experiences. And you kind of spoke as well about not having there was a gap in terms of the education, and you felt that there's this gap kind of lingers within our community, and I'm assuming those of the Black community, those of melanated peoples. What would you say is missing based on, you know, the financial education and stuff? What are you referring to when you say that there are things that have been missing?
When I say that, it's almost like we're not taught anything from the home. So we're taught, go to school, have a good education, get a job. But we're not taught about, or people may say things like, you know, save, but we're not taught the behind. Why are we saving? What about budgeting? How do we budget? We're not taught those things. You know, why you should have emergency funds. Many of us don't have emergency funds. And one thing that I've been screaming about that for years, having emergency funds. And with the current pandemic that we're in, even though health was the key thing around the pandemic, the light was shone on our finances as well, because a lot of us were not prepared for a crisis. A lot of us couldn't go out and boat buy, as some people were boat buying. A lot of us couldn't, you know, jobs, you know, jobs, as we thought like our jobs are secure, we're finding out now job security isn't as secure as we would have thought it was before the pandemic. Now, emergency funds is one thing that I really bang on about, because I also call it my get vexed money. Because sometimes we're in environments, in our workplaces, where we're being violated and we can't just walk out the door because we haven't got 3 to 6 months living expenses to allow us that space to actually look for another job. So budgeting, for example, and you mentioned earlier on, like, you know, some people can't save, or they feel like they can't save, because sometimes it's the mindset thing. So I look around our financial mindset as well, because there's things in the Black community that we are told about money. So what some of the main main things that we're told.
Yeah.
Give me one of them, Kev. What was one of the
Well,
things that we're told about money growing up?
what we're told about money, well,
Yeah.
us within the community.
Yeah, like
What?
what sayings? You know, we've always got sayings within our community. Can you think of one?
Tell me a bit more. Help me out.
All right,
Because
so we got
I've gone
things
blank.
like
Yeah.
that money don't grow on trees.
Okay. Yeah.
So we got all these different sayings, you know.
Yeah.
One key one is money's the root of all evil.
Evil. Yeah.
Now imagine if you in your subconscious mind, because our subconscious mind holds everything, and that is what controls a lot of what we do, is our subconscious, not the conscious, and our decisions and our feelings. So if in your subconscious mind you've got money's the root of all evil, how would you expect to attract it and keep it?
Yeah. It's an energy. Yeah.
It's an energy, yes. And the key thing about that, I just want to clarify something here, because that comes from one of my favorite books. It doesn't say the money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money.
Money.
Is the root of all evil.
Amen.
When you love money, you will do evil things to get it. Not the money is the evil.
Real
right?
talk.
You
Real
will love it so much that you would do certain things to get it. So that's what I mean by the education in understanding that my saying is that money is a tool to create more money. It's not just a tool to be spent. And sometimes we've got it as a tool to be spent. And again, you know, I don't want to go too deep, but things can go back to the pathology and, you know, coming from being enslavement up until now, where, you know, as a people sometimes, because we've been told we can't have in certain areas, when we do get to a certain point, we may overindulge. So we have things because it makes, we may not, how can I put this? Things may not be going so well behind closed doors or behind the bank account, or, you know what I mean, or in the purse, but our external perception or our external presence gives the perception that it is. And that's something that we need to break as well. And that's something that I teach with the schools as well, with young people. Like, there's 3 key rules. Sorry, I know I get passionate, so I can just talk.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, definitely.
I get passionate because there's 3 things I teach when I'm in schools. It was about living simplistic. Save 10% of all that you get, because sometimes we pay everybody else. We've worked for the month. We pay everybody else, and then we look to see what can I save, and that it should be reversed. So 10% of your earnings for yourself. Avoid debt, especially consumer debt. And then how can we use our money to invest to create more money? So when I say that to the children and I ask them for example, it brings joy to my ears when a young person, one of them said, when I asked what's living simplistically, they said, you know, if you drive a Ford instead of a Bentley. Now, so I like that the child was actually thinking in that context.
And to connect with that. Definitely. I mean, it's powerful to hear all the great stuff that you're doing in terms of the financial education, both in the schools and with children. And I guess a lot of that would be obviously rippling through and helping out families as well. And I guess, you know, looking at the wider family. And I wondered, what I'm curious to kind of think about now is, you spoke about like emergency funds, security and all of that. I know what you're talking about when you're referring to these things. But if we're talking just for those with me, Paula, you're drinking, you see me? Yeah?
There? Did you get
okay, you're back. Good. So we're still tuned in. That's good. But what I wanted to talk to was the idea of security funds. When we're talking about security funds, and you're talking about having free form, what exactly, when we're talking about having a security fund, what do you mean by that in very basic layman terms for people?
So emergency funds is, I would say, it's something that you have put away for exactly that, emergencies. Because sometimes things will happen, like our white goods may go, and that could send you in panic mode. Because if you're just living on, if your living expenses is more than what's coming in, if you have an emergency, that can send you in panic mode. But if you have emergency funds put aside, that money's already there to take care of the emergency. The roof going in, a white goods might be gone. You may use your car for work. and something goes wrong with the car. So you have that money. It's always better to be prepared than unprepared. So emergency funds is something that I suggest as having put, you know, your living expenses. So if your living expenses is £1,000 for argument's sake, you should have a minimum of £3,000 saved. So if something happened with your job, you had to, you know, and you would be okay for 3 months.
Okay.
So 3 months a minimum, 6 months. 6 months really for me a minimum, but we have to.
Okay.
And what I would also say, I don't want anyone to think like, oh, you know, it has to grow. So you start from somewhere and you grow it. But the key thing is about understanding that we need to have these things put aside. Again, some people are unhappy in their workplace. It has an impact on their family. It has an impact on their well-being. And I feel if you had 6 months savings put aside for your living expenses, it will be easier for you to say, you know what, I'm going to look for another job because this is having an impact on my well-being.
And then in that time, at least, you know, your rent is covered or your mortgage or whatever is covered during that period.
So your bills are all covered
and bills,
during that period.
Yeah, and all that's covered. No, definitely. And would you say, I mean, for some people, when we're talking about the emergency fund, would you say there's some little rules around this fund? Because some people, what would we classify as an emergency? I know you talked about white goods going, but some people might see other things as an emergency. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it might be helpful to clarify but what some of those things would be in terms of an emergency and what you might need that for and what might need to be prioritized.
So it could be something going wrong in the house. So you may need your roof may go. Roofs are very expensive. Yeah. So it may be something that's going on inside the house. It may be an emergency that you need, something happens to a family member abroad and you need to get up and rush off. It may be a medical expense that you need to take care of. So it's those things that are crucial to our life.
And all relative to, I guess, each individual, depending on what that emergency might be for them, depending. But I think normally when I've heard people talk about it, the basic rule of thumb is often around using it to look at your kind of living expenses, as you said, generally. So your rent, your council tax, your mortgage, whatever your monthly kind of food bills might be for you and the family and the kids, and that kind of totting that all up, you know, and kind of calculating that.
It's the family stuff, because some of us are in workplaces that we may not get, if you were off sick, you may not get any pay until you get back to work. Hence why with and we mentioned, I didn't mention it in the thing, hence why when I got trained to be a financial advisor specializing in insurance, that's something that I put in place for a lot of my clients who are self-employed or who have 0-hour contracts, that they've got income protection. Exactly. So if you've got an emergency fund, that's kind of like your income protection for a period of time. Where obviously if you've got insurance, it takes you longer than that. But that's what emergency funds are for.
Brilliant. And I guess for some people, that a common thing is often, because I'm going to talk about the policy stuff as well. I want to kind of come on to that and look at life policies and the importance of them and the relevance of them. I just wondered, from those that are maybe struggling to save, I know obviously this is a big area for you. This is something you're passionate about as well. So what do you currently have in terms of programs, or what would you be advising people? How can people kind of connect with you, or what little tips would you be giving now with regards to
what I've realized with savings as well, there's quite an important thing, and I always say that your money, where your priorities are, your money flows. Where your I'm gonna say that again. I'm gonna say that again for those where your priorities are, your money flows. So sometimes we say we haven't got money for savings, but we've got money for those other things that we may do. So for the gentlemen, I don't know, it might be your Saturday night out with the guys when you get a bottle of brandy or whatever it may be, your thing, smoking cigars, I don't know. For the ladies, it might be our beauty stuff and so forth, which I'm not saying we mustn't have, but where you know, we have that money for those things that we want to have. And some of those things are expensive, mind you. Do you know what I mean? So I do a savings challenge. It's a 26-week savings challenge where you can save up to £350 in 26 weeks or £1,000. Now, I know that's a long time. It may seem like a long time because it's 6 months in total, but it starts off with something small. So if you're saving for the £350, for example, week 1, it's £1. Week 2 is £2. Week 3 is £3, etc. until you get to 26 weeks. So the highest is £26. If you're starting on the higher level, week 1 is £26. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I've helped over 1,500 people have actually done this challenge, and then they shared it with their family and friends. And some of them, I get feedback all the time, like, Paula, this challenge is amazing. I've never been able to save before. I'm doing it again. Now I'm doing it the bigger tin. Now I'm doing 2 tins. The kids are doing it. The husband's doing it. Everyone's doing it. Now, for me, the target is important. Yeah, so I believe you should have your target, because what it does for you, the momentum of you seeing that money grow in a tin, because I advise you to use a tin at home so you can hear it grow.
So you physically can see it, and
see it, and
something tangible.
But the key thing for me through that, why I created that challenge, was the discipline that you gain throughout it. So people start realizing, you know what, I'm not saving £2 this week. I've got £5 to save instead. I'm stopping what I'm doing there to make sure that money goes in my tin. Now I'm saving for a tin for the school. You know, one of the ladies said, Paula, I've started a new tin now that I'm saving in advance for the school uniform and the school things that need to be there. So people start getting real creative. Once they start saving, because they're starting to see, like, actually this tin is growing, and I'm realizing I'm actually have got money to save, but I'm wasting. Well, I'm not going to say wasting it. I'm using it in other areas where they might realize that sometimes it's a waste. Some of us are smokers. Smoking is an expensive thing. You know what I mean? And it's about what are we going to sacrifice or cut back on in order to build our finances, in order to get some form of stability, because normally our income and our expenses are meant to meet. Whatever your income is, your expenses needs to be have stability. Most of the time that's not the case. Our expenses,
our outgoings are more higher than our income,
than what we've got coming in.
No, definitely. And I think that's why I wanted you to kind of really speak to that, because I feel what I'm getting from what you're saying is this is about a mindset. This is about discipline. This is about getting yourself into a routine and a way of being, you know, where, you know, when you start to get creative and you start to have fun, then obviously, you know, the family can get involved, and this is something that everyone can jump in on. And I can see there's a lot of comments firing up as we're talking as well.
I've seen one that someone, and if this is true, someone said some people are scared to plan for tomorrow. And that's the thing, as a people, as my people, as melanated people, in other cultures, they're planning for like 100 years ahead. They're planning like you know, 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead, and sometimes we're just planning for the weekend.
But it's real,
and it's real, and I'm not saying that in anything, but sometimes we're planning for the weekend, and we need to start getting into the habit that we're planning for our next generation. And one thing that I'm really passionate about as well is that we learn our money blueprint. So the way we manage our money has been formed from childhood. And it's been formed from how our parents or guardians manage their money. So 99% of the time, how you manage your money now, if you really deep it or think about it, it's the same as your parents. Were they careful? Boy, money's to be spent. Were they savers? Were they non-savers? Was money an argument in the home, or was it a happy thing in the home? We're learning through all these things. What was being said in the home, like I said, with, you know, you learn by what you hear, you learn by what you see, and you learn by the experiences that you have. Some of us may have had negative experiences that we don't even realize that we didn't get a toy for Christmas, for example, and that scarred us, and it's had an impact of how we manage our money, right?
Totally. So we then go buy the most expensive things or go and be frivolous with money. Totally.
But that's a real thing. So 99% of the time we do follow in what we see. So I might have been one of the 1%ers, because I saw that money was being wasted in my home, and I saw that how it had an impact that I didn't have. Sometimes I might not have ate. Do you know what I mean? So I saw the impact, where for me, I've always been quite careful or thoughtful with how I do things, because I've always said my children will never experience that.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously it had that opposite positive effect
Yes,
for you to do the to go in the opposite direction and be proactive and kind
definitely.
of respect the power of money and look at that.
Yeah,
And
and
I
the key
guess,
thing as well, sorry to cut you, I
yeah,
told you that I get passionate. I kind of talk a lot, sorry.
it's
So
okay.
the
Yeah,
key thing as well for me is, again, these habits with our finances, we are transferring onto our children. And
yeah,
that's where I talk
yeah.
about breaking negative cycles. So for
Hmm.
with my children, when they started working, for example, the key things I used to say to them is, listen, you can save half of the money you're getting. They're like, what do you mean save half, mum? You're not used to this money. You didn't have it before. So what you
Yeah,
get in that wage pack, you can save at least half,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you're not used to getting it.
yeah,
So then they get into the momentum of doing that.
yeah,
And then, you know, when I have my kids, sometimes I test them, yeah. So I
yeah,
will ask now and again, can you lend me $2,000? Can you lend me $3,000? And they'll be
yeah.
like, okay, yeah, mum, when do you need it? I don't need it, but I just want to know you got it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, real talk. So it's good and it's important to break those generational cycles, like you said. And I think it has to start somewhere. And that's the key to this process.
Yes.
Because for me, I think a big issue is this issue of debt. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I know at the moment, whether that's consumer debt, I'm talking about like credit cards,
Yeah.
whatever, all that stuff. I know already there are people that really suffer with that. I know for me that hasn't really been my kind of issue, for me personally, but I know people in my circles. I know there are people that struggle with debt or have made wrong decisions in
Yeah.
terms of investing in things, and it's all gone pear-shaped,
Yeah.
and now they're better off, sorry, they're worse off as a result in terms of their
Hmm.
finances. So if there are people who are thinking, okay, I would love to save, however, I'm in serious debt,
Yeah.
you know. I've got this dark clouds kind of hanging over me. I need to kind of get certain things sorted, and I can't really save or look towards the savings to put down for a deposit for that mortgage or for that house or for that car, whatever it is that they want to prioritize. What would you be saying to them, P?
I think the key thing about having debt as well, when it comes to impacting us, is that a lot of the time it's not the actual debt that impacts us, it's us not being in control of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's about being in control of it and having a plan of how you're going to tackle the debt. So
yeah,
sometimes we just may pay minimum payment to every single credit card that we have, and guess what's going to happen? You may be paying them credit cards for the rest of your life
interest, boy.
because of the interest. And I remember,
Mm,
you know, in my 20s, I used to have debt. I had savings, but I had debt because I was ignorant. I liked the idea of, I just used to get credit cards to see if I could pass the credit, to be fair. I used to do that.
okay,
Yeah, I
okay,
used to do
yeah, yeah. So it's a
like,
bit of a
my credit
game,
is good.
was
It
it?
was a
Yeah,
good store
yeah,
cards. And then because I was so young, I liked the idea of buying stuff and I'm paying £5 back a month every month. Guess
yeah,
what? That's because of the lack of knowledge of what APR meant. I didn't know what
yeah,
APR meant. I didn't
yeah,
realize the interest that was being paid on top
yeah,
and so forth. So that's a part of the knowledge that I do was sharing. So going back to your question, sorry, if you're in
yeah,
debt, it's about having a debt management plan of how you are going to
yeah,
tackle this debt. This is why budgeting is important, because what we're going to have to do is cut back on other things temporarily that we may be doing in our life. I don't know. I'll give an example. When I used to wear my weaves and have it done, that was £100 every 4 weeks. So
okay,
over the period of a year, that's like £1,200 a month for the year.
yeah,
Times
yeah,
that by 3, that's
yeah.
£3,600. Do you know what I mean? Which could go towards a debt. So it's about
When you break it down that way, yeah,
when you break it down
real
that way.
talk.
I
Yeah,
spoke to a gentleman, you know, I was speaking to someone who was telling me how much they smoke, and they were saying, yeah, I smoke 50 pounds. I was like, okay, a month, there's like no, a week. So I'm like, okay, let's break that down. That's £200 a month.
yeah,
How much is that a year? So sometimes we need to break down the other things that we're doing in its totality, and then how much of that could be going towards our debt as well. But sorry, I kind of drifted off there. In regards to a debt
no, definitely,
management
yeah,
plan, when you have a debt management plan, you've got a plan of how you are going to tackle each of your debts to get them reduced quicker.
yeah,
Sometimes we are scared to even pick up the phone, because I've got clients that I've worked with one-to-one that has not opened a letter for over a year. you know, they get very nervous when the door goes, when they see certain envelopes or anyone.
So they're hiding under the sheets, hiding away
and
from.
Sometimes, in order to tackle these things, we need to, you know,
face them head on. Yeah.
Face them head on. And a lot of the times, if we make these phone calls to these organizations, sometimes saying, you know what, I'm in problems at the minute. I do want to pay you. What can you do for me to help me pay you? Sometimes these organizations can reduce the interest rate. They can freeze the interest rate. They can maybe give you a settlement of and a time that you can pay things off, support. But because sometimes we don't want to reach out for help, because when your finances are not in a great place as you would like them to be, we can get into a place where we don't want to tell anyone because we're shamed, we're embarrassed, and that can send us in a spiral. That's why I do what I do, because I want to help you. That, you know, I always say, when people say come into my inbox, you know, I feel a bit embarrassed by that, and so let me tell you something. What you've just done, reaching out to me, is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Right.
Sign of strength.
Right.
That shows me you want to change your circumstances.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times we keep it to ourselves because, you know, we may be, I don't know, driving the BMW and we're sneaking in the petrol station and only put £5 in there and it's a 3-litre car. You know, I just use these things as
metaphors, but it's important.
It's important for people that is exactly it's happening.
Of course, of course it is. And I feel, you know, that's another bind in itself. That's another trap that you're having to try and keep face, you know. And I think that further kind of reinforces, you know, that ability to be able to seek help when you're feeling that you got to be seen to keep face with everybody, when actually you need help to kind of get out of your circumstances or to find a solution to an issue. And I think that's very important, what you're talking about. I see Stubbs Disability Life has said it's about setting targets and having self-control. Totally.
Definitely.
It's about that. And I think sometimes that can be a real challenge for people to do that. So in terms of the kind of the debt stuff, so I know kind of moving from that, it's about having the debt management plan.
Yes.
It's about looking at these things and working through that process. I know there'll be some people here that are also very keen to think about their, like, looking at investments and looking at, you know, because everyone since Black Pound Day, and I mean before then, it's safe to say that I think there's been a huge interest within the Black community. I know we are big consumers, as a community, we're huge consumers, but I think there's been a huge wave over the last few years in an interest in terms of looking at entrepreneurship, and developing passive income and residual income and all of that. I just wondered, Paula, if you could speak to that a bit in terms of, like, you know, looking at investments. I know you spoke about owning multiple properties in terms of multiple streams of income, etc. I thought it might be important just to get clear for people what we're talking about when we're talking about this residual income and all of that and what's available.
I feel like right now, I think we're at a point where we're actually realizing that one income ain't making it no more. It's not making it no more. And I believe that we all got individual talents, knowledge, experience, unique skills that we are able to use to monetize and bring in residual extra income. And it's about identifying what those are and using those to bring in income. It may be, I believe everyone's got a book in them, for example. So my book is an asset to me because it brings in money while I'm sleeping. People are buying it while I'm sleeping. I wake up and I'm like, oh, I've got orders, I've got to send it out. So I believe everyone's got a book. So it's about finding different ways that you are able to bring in extra income. You may have savings there that is sitting down and it's not earning a lot of interest. There's a saying that says, you know, poor people pay interest and rich people gain interest. So it's about it's about looking at these types of things. So for example, when I first started investing in stocks and shares, I'm sort of person that I need to do to learn. Do you understand? So it's still doing due diligence, it's still understanding what you're doing. So any investment that we do, we need to understand what we are doing. But sometimes you have to take those little steps. You're not putting no big money into anything. And, you know, I got an event coming called Stepping Towards Increased Finances this month, and I go into you know, what I done and how you can do things. But it's about looking into different opportunities that are there for you. And many people are unaware that you can buy shares for less than £1.
Yeah.
So to me, we can all have shares.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
you know, different amounts, but we can all
Yeah.
afford to buy a share, because many
Yeah.
of us are unaware that that opportunity is there for us, and know that there's shares that cost less than £1.
Yeah.
You know?
And equally, I'm aware that, sorry to cut you,
Yeah.
Paula, but I'm also aware that shares for some people can often be quite a scary prospect.
Yes.
Because, you know, with any well, depending on what level of investment or what you're investing in, you're gonna have to be willing to take risks.
Yes.
Within that, and I think that often, when I've spoken to people, particularly and I know there's like forex trading, there's investment stocks and shares, you know, people get a bit worried and a bit concerned and a bit anxious because they're like, well, I don't really know this that area well.
And this
Pardon,
is where
sir?
your own learning has to come in
Yeah.
place. This is where you have to do your own due diligence. I remember when I first started doing in stocks and shares, I remember buying shares in an AI company. And the only reason why I took the leap and done that, because what I was reading, I started to understand that robots are taking over jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got certain organizations like O2, where you had people manually doing the chips, where robots are doing that now. So that was the due diligence, that was the reading that I was doing that led me to say, you know what, I'm going to invest in this company. I think it was £1 something at the time. I bought £1,500 worth of shares. I think a year and a half later, those shares was £16,000. Now, I weren't no big expert or nothing, but it was just through the due diligence. What I was reading, it made sense. Yeah. Some things will make sense. For example, if anybody knew that we were going to have the pandemic now, they would have thought in advance. Zoom,
trust me.
Good
what
organization to tap into, to buy into. You know, a lot of organizations, when Netflix first came out, people would have been thinking like, who's sitting down there watching? No one ain't gonna be watching Netflix. Look at it now. So it's about ahead, and
it done destroy the DVD, boy.
Exactly. When people go in Blockbusters and people are talking about Netflix, no, I'm thinking, no, I want to buy my VHS. Or, you know, when you had your VHS and people said CDs, they're like, no, what do you mean? Circle. But things evolve. But the people who were thinking ahead and thought that made sense and invested in those organizations paid off in the long run. So with investing, especially with us women, I'm just going to talk to my sisters right now. Like, as women, we like to know 99.9% of things before we even step out to do things, compared to men. Men who might want to know 30% of how to do things, and then they will try. Us as women, we want to know 99% or something before we try. And we need to kind of step out of that and take those little risks. I'm not saying to risk all your savings. I'm saying you might just, you know, what you can afford to lose might be £50. It might be £100. It might be £20. But it's about trying. And I just want to give out, there's a website, there's a free investment app called Free Trade.
Okay.
Free Trade is an investment app that you can use, and you could just start off playing around. You could just put a little £20 in there, and it's got loads of shares. You could look at the shares, go on to maybe something like Yahoo Finance, read up about the shares, what they do. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying you must be, you know, skimming across things, but you might could just dip your toe in small, because if you lost 20,
that's a good way to start.
It's a good way to start for you to start getting into the habit of things. Because I know for me, and I know a lot of women, we like to know all the information before we even want to start.
I mean, it's safe to say, I think there's some brothers that are like that as well. I think I'm someone, depending on what it is, I think there's definitely brothers that I know that are very risk adverse. Do you know what I mean? They're not about to jump headlong into anything until they kind of fully know. Or have an understanding of what it is they're getting into. And I think I'm one of those brothers. I hold my hand up and say that. So I think it does apply. But I do think, generally speaking, I think us guys will try a thing. We are more likely to try and do something more so than, let's say, the sisters in this comparison. So I guess because I'm thinking about the time, as I said, we
No,
always get into it, and
so
it
quick.
goes quick. It goes quick. So the thing that I wanted to also speak about as well, that you mentioned a bit earlier, which I think is equally important, but I wanted us to speak to this, is around life policies,
Hmm.
and sewing into us. And I know you mentioned like income protection,
Hmm.
there's critical illness cover, there's life assurance, there's so many other stuff. But I just wanted to kind of speak to this
Okay.
very quickly. Yeah.
So I'm a registered FCA registered financial advisor in protection, personal protection. Now, a lot of the times when we're talking about life insurance, as Black people, but let's be honest, we think, boy, I don't want to talk about, got my little accent coming.
Yeah, yeah,
Be talking about death, you know,
yeah.
we don't want to.
You're bringing something upon yourself and all that.
Yes.
Yeah,
But what I would like to say is that it's not talking about death per se. It's about, again, you planning in advance for those you love that you're leaving behind. Okay.
yeah,
So a lot of the times we think about it negatively when we need to switch that on the head, because right now, so I've been going to too many young funerals. Yeah, too many young funerals. In the last 8 weeks, I know 3 people who have passed away, heart attack, stroke, one just went into a coma. Okay, this is nothing to do with COVID. So a lot of the times it's about planning for the future because we're of those that we're leaving behind. So you mentioned some of the policies that there are. A lot of the times for critical illness, for example, is a policy that's in place that if you are diagnosed with a critical illness, you are provided with a lump sum of money. A lot
yeah,
of the times when we are ill, we haven't got the time to recover, look after ourselves, because we have to rush back out to work because bills need to
yeah,
be paid. When
yeah,
something like that in place, it allows you to relax and focus on your health. The good thing about critical illness cover is your children are also protected underneath that policy as well. So that's something that I really do love, critical illness cover. And the reason why I got trained, Kev, is because last year, was it last year? No, the year before now, my sister had a stroke on her 41st birthday weekend and had to have
oh
brain
wow,
surgery, and she's still in a neuro hospital 14 months later. That made me
wow.
really shocked, because if she had a policy in place, potentially the house could be adapted for her to
To
go.
me, yeah, that money could have gone to
Exactly.
alterations. Yeah, 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 in the home. Yeah,
Just things like that. And
yeah,
so young. So a lot of the times we feel like
yeah,
that happened to me, but we all know someone that maybe have had a critical illness. And sometimes it's about putting things in place that if you are the breadwinner, you look after the children, whether it's husband or, you know, wife, whether it's mom, especially if you've got children, if something happened to you, you would like to know that your children are going to be taken care of and you've left something in place for them. So it's always about,
yeah,
it's about planning for the future for those that you love, that you're leaving behind. So I always like to say as well, because some people, I do free consultations as well. Some
cool.
people want these in place, but they don't know how to go about it, or they think it's expensive, or they feel like, you know, I haven't got good credit, so I can't have life insurance. Those are all myths. There's nothing to do
Yeah,
with credit. Everything can be adapted to your affordability. So if you needed, for example, 100K's worth of cover because you've got you've got, you know, a mortgage, you've got children, but your affordability only allows you 30K worth of cover, for example, it's better to start somewhere and grow it
yeah, and
as
grow it.
your
And these can be reviewed anyway.
reviews. I've
Yeah,
done reviews, Kevin, that people have got life insurance out there that are for accidental death only, and they don't know that.
they didn't know that.
Now,
Yeah,
when I do the reviews, I'm realizing, do you
wow.
died of natural causes, your policy wouldn't pay out. And they're like,
Yeah,
what? I'm like, yeah. So sometimes when we do it through the bank or we do it online ourselves, they're not able to give you any advice.
yeah,
So with what I do, I'm trained that I'm giving you advice. You may have a policy that's, you know, for 250K, and I ask the question, you know, what was your rationale for that? Because you
yeah.
actually need, your circumstances right now, you
Don't. Yeah,
actually need that much cover. So let's break
yeah.
the policy right down, for example.
So it's not something to be navigating on your own per
Yeah,
se. And obviously you offer that as a free
I
consultation
offer a free
where you can
consultation,
support. Yeah, yeah,
give you the advice, the guidance, and can put the policies in place also. I have access
yeah,
to the whole of the market. So I look at your individual needs and tailor your quotes to your
yeah.
individual circumstances.
So Paula, how can people how can people get in contact with you? So I'm sure there'll be people here that are listening, that have been tuning in, catching this on catch up as well, want to learn more about this, because I'm recording the audio of this, so we've got the podcast as
Okay.
well, so this
Yeah.
goes up as well. So I'm sure for anyone that catches up on this conversation, how can people get in contact with you at You For Us? What's the best way?
So you can contact me by any of my social medias. That's You For Us. I'm happy for you to text me or give me a call. My number is 07930 578 949. That's 07930 578 949. Give me a call, drop me a text, and I'll be happy to set up a consultation for you as well, or review. If you've got something in place, thumbs up, well done. But if you've had it in place for a long time, it's always good to review it, because your circumstances may have changed, and you know, there's new things that come on the market all the time. So I may be able to get you a more comprehensive package than what you have, or as the current times that we're in, reduce your outgoings or your premiums as well.
Yeah, totally. No, thank you for that. That's really important. And I see Neil's helped by putting the at up there. He's added you. And Neil's just like, yeah, at You For Us. That's brilliant.
Good.
Yeah. And feel free, if you want to put in, like I said, the web address or any of those details, to type that up as it comes up on the screen as well for those that are tuning in now. Feel free to do that as we're talking. Yeah, I mean, this has been great. I knew this would be the case anyway, because obviously I was super excited about having you on and having this space and having this conversation. And obviously, you know, like I said, you've delivered, then some and more. Do you understand, Paula?
Thank you.
So it's so important that we have these conversations.
Since I said I do like the little nickname that you've given me since.
Oh yes, the ninja.
Ninja.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, because I know this is the first time that we're actually speaking online, because we've never actually physically met. I know we have mutual circles. There are people that we know mutually as well, but I know we've not actually met. But I feel just what you do and what you say, I had to call you a ninja because you're dangerous. Do you know what I mean? In a very positive way, in the most endearing way possible. And I love the way that like, for example, a post that you did some time back where you was talking about when we came out of lockdown, we emerged from lockdown, and you was talking about how people were running to Night Town to go mash up the place, to go buy trainers. Like coming back to like what you were saying earlier about where people prioritize their money and where it goes. So the moment we've come out of this lockdown, the first thing people wanted to do is go and spend more money and buy crepes and trainers and run out here. And did you really need those trainers? Yeah.
That's it.
So
that's
I'm loving the content.
Well, just before, I know time's running out. A key thing is knowing the difference between needs and want. Because most of the times we're like, we need this, I need that jacket, I need this, I need that. And we don't need nothing. We want it. And I know us ladies, a lot of the times we see things and we feel like we need it. And then we go home and we see things with tags on it that we needed then, and we still haven't won. And
real talk.
No, I'm
real
not.
Talk. No, definitely. I mean, Paula, it's been great. And for those of you that are just joining us now, obviously we're kind of coming to the end of the conversation, but obviously you can get this on playback anyway, because the video will go up as soon as we've kind of finished this, so people can watch back, tune in. I encourage you to connect with Paula, especially if you want to learn more about financial education, financial freedom, if you're looking at wanting to start your journey through savings, with right up through to kind of investments and looking at life assurance.
Kevin, on the 27th.
Okay, cool.
On the 27th, it's my first one doing it online, because I do an event called Stepping Towards Increase. And I'm having an online version on Sunday, the 27th of September at 6 p.m. It's going to be amazing. Cool. Every time I've held it physically, I was holding back from doing it online because I like personal interaction.
I
like that, but people have been in my inbox emailing me, so I'm bringing it online. There's early birds are out now, so if you're interested in coming and learning more, the link is in my bio.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. So you got that. So you got a seminar coming up straight away, coming up soon. You're going to put that in there. Yeah, go and put that there. Go plug that. So that's all good. Sunday the 27th. Thank you, Neil. Neil's helping as well. So that's all good with the date. So definitely, please, I encourage you to kind of tune in, particularly because I think, like I said, this is a super important conversation to be had. We need to have this conversation, and I think it's a continuous dialogue. I don't think it ever grows old. I think we can go off in new directions with it. We can develop, we can teach others once we feel that we've had our fill, but I don't think we ever will have our fill.
Yes.
I think we're always forever going to be learning as circumstances changes, and I feel COVID showed us that, man. I think COVID definitely gave people a wake-up call. In terms of their savings, whether they had any emergency funds available, their income streams, and all of that stuff. So it shed light on a lot of things that I think people are now thinking about getting in place. So with that said, I just want to say a massive thank you, Paula. You know, it's just been great. Long time coming actually to have you on here. So it's brilliant to meet you virtually and stuff. Hopefully we'll get to meet in person sometime. You know what I mean? Given all the restrictions, definitely. So I just want to say a massive thank you. And obviously, for those that are tuning in, if this is the first time that you're tuning in to Lounge Academics, as you all know, well, if you may not know, this is about providing teachable moments. Yeah. So our platform is a learning platform. So we're always about sharing knowledge, shedding light on wisdom and knowledge in our community. And it's always about getting people the knowledge that they need and to share that, you know. So that's why I always encourage people to come with their minds open to kind of hearing new things and having a willingness to kind of learn and being open to that and take some risks in their learning. And that's what our platform's about. So you can catch up with some of our other stuff. We've been doing the 5 minutes of disrupt for several weeks now. I think we're like in our 8th or 9th week right now. So we've been running since lockdown. And also we've got our YouTube channel where we've got content there. So you can catch up with us on our backlog of interviews and stuff that we've done on our YouTube channel. And obviously there's our podcast that you can find at Lounge Academics. But I just want to say thank you, Paula. It was great. No, definitely. We got to revisit though, because like I said, we're doing another season where we're going to be exploring race. So I definitely want to get you involved as part of that conversation, definitely within the Black experience, the UK experience around Black history in particular. Okay. So it's been great. It's been emotional. Thank you, Paula.
You know what I mean? All right.
Right. So you take care, stay blessed, keep doing all that great stuff, and we shall be in contact very soon. Yeah. Bless you, Paula. Thank you. All right. Take care.